This is Nombuso. She spent several months being treated with MDR and is now fully recovered.
Before I found out I had TB, I was just coughing, thinking it was flu. I went to the doctor for flu medicine. They gave me the flu medication. Well, I took that flu medication for quite some time, and then I realized that it's not healing. Because now I was starting to lose weight, I was having shortness of breath, and I was sweating at night. That's when I started to be really worried as to what is happening. And then I had to go back, and that's when they started doing the x-rays. And then when they did the x-ray, that's when they found out I have TB. I started to take TB treatment. While I was taking TB treatment, it was going well until the period of 5 months, where I realized that I'm coughing blood. They had to take me back to hospital to do more tests. And that's when they realized that TB treatment is not working. I was even more worried now because I had a friend that had TB and she passed away. So I went to the hospital, they did more tests, and they found out it's no longer normal TB. It is now MDR. They explained to me that MDR, it's multidrug-resistant tuberculosis, which is a disease that is contagious and it's only curable at the public hospitals. I had to be transferred to Sizwe Tropical Disease Hospital. When I got to Sizwe, I was quite very ill. I had to take injections every day and 27 pills per day so that I could be better. There were times that was very difficult and I really felt like giving up because I made a lot of friends and I saw most of them dying in front of me. But then I realized that I want to go back to school and finish my qualification. So I was positive and I was very disciplined when it's come to taking my treatment. I knew what I wanted. I knew that one day I would go out of Sizwe. So I really made good decisions to go there. Because if I didn't go, maybe I would have died.
To understand what causes multidrug-resistant TB or MDR TB, we have to understand the disease itself called tuberculosis, otherwise known as TB.
Tuberculosis is one of the oldest diseases known to men. It's caused by a germ, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and this germ usually primarily attacks the lungs but can also attack other organs of the body. The TB germ is spread through the air. Normally people, when they cough, sneeze, etc., they release droplets in the air, and that normally stays in the air for quite a while, and others will, sharing the same space, will inhale that droplet. MDR TB is a more resistant form of tuberculosis. The current treatments that are normally used to treat TB are not effective, and therefore we cannot cure TB using the standard treatments. So MDR is essentially a drug-resistant type where we need to use different types of drugs which are a bit more toxic and are less effective than your simple or standard susceptible tuberculosis. The difficulty is that it is more severe, as I said, but also costs a lot more, and it takes a lot more time to treat this type of disease. Where we normally treat for 6 months, these patients need to be treated for up to 2 years. It's not as common as standard tuberculosis, but it's a very important type of tuberculosis that needs to be dealt with effectively. MDR TB has been progressing over time. We've seen major outbreaks in KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape, and it continues to spread. And for us to manage MDR tuberculosis in the country, we really need to understand what's the actual burden of multidrug-resistant TB in our country.
About 2 billion people, a third of the world's population, are infected with TB, but most people remain without symptoms. Approximately 1 in 10 infected people eventually progresses to active disease. Almost every aspect of its management is complicated. The only vaccine currently available, the BCG vaccine, is only effective in preventing severe forms of the disease. Initial symptoms of cough and fever are vague and can often resemble a common cold. Treatment is difficult and requires administration of multiple antibiotics over a very long period of time. One area that has seen some progress in the last few years is in diagnosis. As a new test, GeneXpert test is being introduced across South Africa, improving the ease of detection of TB and MDR TB. TB was generally on the decline worldwide until the emergence of HIV. This is the tragic picture that has emerged in South Africa, and we now generally refer to this as the HIV-TB co-epidemic. Resistance to available drugs is a major challenge for TB treatment and one of the reasons of its continuing spread. The National Institute for Communicable Diseases has recently embarked on a nationwide TB drug-resistant survey, DRS, to determine the size of the MDR TB epidemic in South Africa.
The reason TB is a major priority, in fact the priority area for NICD, is that simply stated, TB is the major cause of death in individuals in South Africa. So each year, what we're facing right now is that there's at least 500,000 people that are having microbiologically confirmed TB. And if anything, that is a complete underestimate in terms of the true burden in South Africa. It means that out of every 100 people in South Africa each year, one individual will actually develop TB, at least one individual.
The drug resistance survey is important for South Africa in that it will help us estimate the actual burden of drug resistant TB in the country. And over time, as we continue to use the TB medicines for treating TB, resistance is going to develop.
The additional challenges we've got in South Africa is issues in terms of the type of drug-resistant TB that we actually face. So drug-resistant TB, again, is emerging as a major challenge in South Africa, not only in little pockets of the country, but in fact throughout the country.
It was important to have individual data for the 9 provinces in South Africa because the provinces are different in terms of the population size, in terms of the TB burden, in terms of HIV prevalence in these provinces.
So the current drug resistance survey is obviously going to be instrumental in terms of informing us as to exactly what the extent of drug resistance is, as well as how it's evolved over the past few years.
And this will allow us to then plan for tackling the burden of disease as well as preventing the further development of resistance.
Even if drug-resistant TB is closer to 3 to 4%, which is what we're hoping to find, what that basically translates into is a huge drain in terms of the resources of the country to basically address the issue of treatment of those individuals.
The results of the survey will benefit the country in that we would be knowing very well in terms of where we are with the drug-resistant TB in the country, and that would enable us to actually plan to prevent further drug-resistant TB from developing and to adequately manage those that have drug-resistant TB.
The NICD has got a responsibility, and our major responsibility is being able to identify the hotspots of tuberculosis, the incidence of TB in different parts of the country, as well as hotspots in terms of drug resistance. So we can inform Department of Health's policy in terms of targeted interventions which are really geared towards controlling TB as a priority in those areas where the incidence is greatest and where drug-resistant TB is high.
Finally, after 2 years of hard work and screening about 200,000 people, we have our results. Our study showed that about 2.8% of all those that suffer from tuberculosis in South Africa have multi-drug-resistant tuberculosis. This means that the tuberculosis bug causing their illness is resistant to treatment with 2 of the most powerful first-line anti-TB drugs, isoniazid and rifampicin. However, the picture for multi-drug-resistant tuberculosis varies from 1.6% in the Limpopo province to 5.1% in the Mpumalanga province. These results will shape how government responds to the epidemic in South Africa. After 2 years of treatment, Nombuso can get back to her family and start living a normal life again.
When I got out of Sizwe, I was very happy that I'm going back to school. I'm gonna finish my qualification and I'm graduating in September. So that's the positive.
We have a high number of cases of tuberculosis in South Africa, with over 400,000 people estimated diagnosed with TB in the country. However, the vast majority of these people are actually cured of tuberculosis.
When somebody has got the diagnosis of MDR TB, it is not a death sentence.
Some of them, they die simply because they don't finish their treatment. So discipline is very important while taking your treatment.
That is why the critical message that we also want to send out always is that the diagnosis must be as early as possible.
So I think the key message for us is that people do get tested when they have symptoms, and remember that TB can be cured.
But the last very, very important message is for the patient to take their treatment for the full period of time.
TB treatment is not easy, and it will never be easy. But giving up is not an option. You do not want to lose your life to something that you are more capable of overcoming.
We beat TB. It's time to